Hey, hey, hey. Hello, hello. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, everybody. How are you doing? In the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of COVID-19, in the midst of riots and looting breaking out all across America, in the midst of protests, in the midst of the stand for George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor and Sandra Bland and so many others. How are you doing? How are you coping? How has life been treating you? There are so many videos and so many images that are flooding our minds and going across our eyes, and even just the audio that goes into our ears. Are you coping? Are you handling it? How have you handled it? What are you doing to stay sane? What are you doing to domestic violence specialists educating individuals on why their decision to remain silent keeps them locked in abuse? I am the founder of MFF Project, and we inspire strength in domestic violence. I am so excited that you have decided to join me again today, every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here at MFF Project on Facebook, to yet again do what? Start the conversations, having conversations to address topics, different topics with different people, different on different levels. And this is what we do. This is what I do every Thursday, Smashing Thursdays at 7 p.m. And I'm very excited that you have decided to join me. And in addition to that, I have a great special guest. I met him just this year in March at the Leaders Conference 2020 in Orangeburg, South Carolina, and I'm super excited because not only did I meet him and got to hear his wonderful presentation, and then we collaborated and we just wrote a whole book together, us and a couple more leaders from that conference. And it's an anthology of leaders. And we all share different aspects. We all come from different walks of life. And we have come together to impact, to empower, to plant seeds so that they may grow on fertile ground. So ask yourselves, what seeds have you planted and who have you collaborated with? They may not be in your circle, they may be in another circle, but are you reaching other communities so that you may be impactful, not only in your community, so that you can go out, like the word says, into the highways and in the byways, so that you can go out and be an extension, be a branch, be a vine, and so that your word, your seed may run deep and be planted into somebody else's life so that their life may be changed, so that they can not only change themselves, but that they can change the people around them, their children, their families, and then even the people at their jobs, so that they may be lights in their communities. And that is the way, as JoJo say, we change the world. So I'm excited. Without further ado, I'm going to bring him on. It is Ben Eden. He is a speaker, an author, and I'll let him tell you everything else that he does. So welcome, Ben. Welcome, Ben. Welcome, Ben. Hello, Ben. How are you? Can you hear me?
I can. Hello there.
Hey, hey, hey. Where are you located?
I'm in West Haven, Utah. That's near Ogden or 30 minutes north of Salt Lake.
Okay. Okay. I heard of Salt Lake. Um, so tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. So, on a personal level, I'm a guy who loves to play soccer, and it's almost time to get back into soccer. People are being allowed to play at the parks and be in groups, so I'm super excited for that. I worked as an HR director for about 7 years and left that job in February of this year to become a full time speaker.
Yeah.
I love all that kind of stuff, but as I was going through being an HR director, I saw that my passion moved a little bit, and I had a message to share about this emotional pain. So right now I'm 30, single, but happy to share this message, and I feel like I can impact a lot of people with what I have to say.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Wow, that's amazing. So you did a big shift, a big pivot, and then the world just kind of shifted in another direction.
Isn't that true?
Yes. So how have you coped or how have you handled that shift after you made this decision to stop in corporate America, but to then begin to pursue your own speaking platform? How have you again shifted or pivoted in this season?
That's a fantastic question. So, yeah, I left my corporate job in February, and then the virus hit full force mid March after the conference that you and I met at. And so, yeah, it was like, well, shoot, I can't really go anywhere to speak, and I'm new to this. I'm not super well known at the time. So, yeah, what am I going to do? But I feel like this time has been a blessing, or at least I've been able to see it as a blessing. I've met a lot of incredible people, joined a lot of webinars. I've learned Zoom and all these electronic sources that we got to use today. And throughout meeting these people, one of the messages that I heard was instead of thinking, how is the world out to get me? We think, how is the world out to do me good? So if I'm in this situation where, hey, I want to be a speaker and that's my goal because I have this message I want to share with the world, but oh my goodness, now I can't even go anywhere. Now what? But I feel like it's been a very awesome time for me to, one, um, work on my message, right? Learn a lot more about emotions and emotional pain so I can become even more of an expert on the subject. But also, the world of speaking and coaching is very much about relationships. So I haven't had the stress of having to travel or having to plan a ton of things because that's just not an option right now. So my main option is to learn and to connect, which have been fantastic things. Learning about myself and saying, hey, if I'm lonely or bored or angry, stressed, or tired, what do I do about it in this new environment, which I'm not used to, when my normal schedule doesn't exist? And I feel like because all of us are in the same boat, then it's easier to relate with people. It's actually easier for me to connect to people on LinkedIn and then say, hey, in the spirit of networking, I'd love to, jump on a phone call with you. What do you feel about that? A lot of times they're willing to do it. We have this great conversation, we connect, and I'm actually able to really connect with these people instead of saying, well, I only have these 30 minutes and then I have something else to do. So I've seen a lot of blessings come from this need to pivot.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I think it has been a great shift for entrepreneurs being able to capitalize, like you said, on building those relationships that you normally would not be able to build unless you are able to go to a conference in another state and connect and meet these the particular group of people that you want to meet. But being able to, for the world or in America, we have to stay home. So you know that if you send them a message in LinkedIn or send them an email, that it may actually get read.
That's
And
right.
then, and not just by the admin, it may actually get read and sent over to the person you're really trying to connect with, and they are able to set up time and have a conversation with you so that you can begin to build those relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So my next question is, what animal best describes you?
Oh boy, that's a good question. I haven't been asked this in a while. Let's say a lion, and here's why.
That's my line. That's my animal. But
Oh,
okay, we can share.
well, hey,
I'm
now we relate,
an
right? So lions are cool. We learn a lot about them from the Lion King movie, right? So, for example, what Simba's dad says, Mufasa, right? He's
animal.
king of the land. He has a lot of ability. He knows he can do a lot of things. So yes, people look up to him, and he he's powerful, right? He's seen as a leader. At the same time, he has what let's call a human element, even though he's a lion, right? Of where Simba says, "I thought you weren't scared of anything," and Mufasa says, "Well, I was today," when he outlost Simba, right? So I feel like I relate to a lion because yeah, people look at me as a leader, and I know I've done some great things. I know I have a lot of potential. At the same time, I'm still human. I'm still scared sometimes. Sometimes I need to reach out to others or lean on others for courage, but I know I can get there.
Good. That's great. Great. So I want to jump right into what we're talking about today, and that's your specialty, emotional pain. So I know you spoke a little bit of how about emotional pain, but kind of give us your overview of why it's so important for you to dive deeply into that as it relates to humans.
Absolutely. Okay, so first of all, I feel like I need to define what I mean by emotional pain,
Okay.
and that is the uncomfortable or unpleasant feeling that persists when we have unresolved emotions. So, when I've been talking to a lot of people, some people discount the term emotional pain because they think, well, I haven't experienced anything massive like a trauma. And that's okay. I try not to even define or put labels on somebody's pain because if I do, then that makes people compare. They say, well, my pain's not as bad as somebody else's, so it's not a big deal. But here's the thing, we all experience emotional pain, some unresolved emotion, and we'll probably get into this later. But the reason I feel it's so important to help people overcome their emotional pain is because the brain experiences emotional pain the same way it does physical pain. It doesn't like pain of either sort, but it doesn't know how to heal from physical pain as well. It doesn't know how to heal from emotional pain as well as it does physical pain. So it looks to cope. So when the brain experiences pain, it doesn't like it and it says, what am I going to do to relieve it? In the world of today, the easy options are, well, I'm just going to binge watch something all day long so I don't have to think about it.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing. I've been watching Grey's Anatomy.
Oh, well, there you go. So we look at the reasons why we do things, right? It's
Yeah.
not bad to watch TV. It's not bad to enjoy something. But if the reason is to hide an emotional pain, then that is a potential problem because what starts as binge watching or comfort eating or just shopping all the time, whatever these are, they could escalate into more addictive substances, let's say, or mind numbing, which are things like pornography, drugs, alcohol, could even escalate to violence and suicide. So, from my experience and talking to others, I've seen how it escalates from side to side. Either way, it's all pain. But then the brain says, how am I going to deal with it? And it turns to these things. So, on the one hand, I feel it's important we understand emotional pain so that we don't have to turn to these addictions. We can gain power over them. And on the second point, something that I've also realized is how we need to separate behavior from emotions.
Mm.
I've been listening to this book called The Unbroken Brain. It's about somebody who's recovered from a drug addiction.
Okay.
Now, if we look at somebody with a drug addiction and say, what a terrible addict, what a terrible behavior, then we're defining them on an action. We're forgetting the human element. But if we could understand, well, why would they be doing that? If it's based on an emotional pain of loneliness or unfulfillment or feelings like that, then we say, wow, they are still human and they're suffering with this. But hey, if I remember they're human, love them, help them, then they can overcome it too. It's a lot of cool things.
Okay. That was a lot. So, how can someone identify their pain point or know that their behavior has become too extreme and now it's leading to other, or they don't even see that it's leading to another behavior?
That's a great question. So, can I give you two examples?
Of course.
All right. So, for example, me, who lives in this world and would like to think, hey, I've got this down pretty well, I still experience emotions and it can lead to the point of emotional pain, which I say is unresolved emotions, right? So, a couple weeks ago, I had a group of friends over. I think, and you think, oh, a group of friends, it's going to be great. You're going to have a good time. Why would emotional pain come out of that? For whatever reason, I wasn't enjoying myself at this party. Didn't really want them over anymore. And when everybody went home, I thought, well, what in the world? I just had a good thing. Why am I feeling the way I do? And my immediate reaction was, I'm just going to watch something and then go to bed because I don't want to think about what I'm feeling right now. But I paused and I said, oh, if I'm doing this because I don't want to feel, then this is an important time to feel. So what can I do? And at this point, I wrote it out in my journal, wrote down my feelings. So it made sense. Well, even if it didn't make sense, I got it out of my mind. Then I was able to go to bed feeling much better, and the next day it didn't affect me. So that's an example of thinking why we're going to an action that makes us comfortable, or it's a coping mechanism where we're trying to flee from those uncomfortable emotions that we don't quite understand, right?
Okay.
Then another example. This one might make a bit more sense. Have you ever seen the movie uh, Inside Out, Disney Pixar?
Oh yeah, I like that movie. Is that the emotional movie?
It is.
Okay.
Great messages from there. Oh my goodness.
It
So
was.
I'll try to summarize it real quick. The main character is this little girl, and she moves with her family to a brand new place, right? Through this, she loses her friends. She has to try out for a new team. She has to go to a new school. Her dad is very busy with work, and her mom has to deal with the stress of moving as well. things aren't working out the way this girl wants. She tries to be happy and says, oh, my room's going to be great. Oh, darn, it's not. Oh, we're still going to be able to play hockey in the house like normal. Oh, it's not. So she experiences these changes, like today, right? If we're in the virus, or if something big happened in the country, like you mentioned earlier, those things could affect us. Then all of a sudden we start having emotions. But in the world of today, where we say, well, I can't feel sad, that's for weak people. I can't feel sad. Even in this movie of Inside Out, joy and happiness tries to say, no, sadness, don't be a part of our feelings. Don't be part of this. But because they did that, the brain or the girl lost sadness and joy. So what was left? Anger, um, dis- disgust, and fear. Anger, disgust, and fear. So then we think, why am I always angry? Why am I always scared? Why am I always disgusted? Instead of happy or sad. This is a part that would help you identify your pain point. Maybe we don't know exactly what triggered it, and I don't know if that's so important. I don't know if we need to go back to the past and exactly find out what it is. I do find it important to understand our current emotions and know that we can have power over them. Hope that answers your question.
It does. It does. But I also think that it is sometimes, and depending upon the level of that particular pain point, that we do need to go back and identify that root, especially if it's a root that comes from the childhood, a root that is so heavy and it has carried on into your adult life. It's a trauma bond that continues to go with you and it affects all of your relationships, whether it's platonic or intimate, even at work. And like you said, and now even in the movie, like when you don't have that joy and you don't have that sadness and now you're angry. And I think a lot of times in some people being able to go back and identify that, working through with a counselor or therapist, and then being able to cope through that and finding a new place of healing, it is important to identify that and to address it so that you can stop carrying it with you through the rest of your life.
Definitely true.
Okay, good, good. So, I heard you talk about the emotions and just different ways to, when you say we should stay or maybe deal with that sadness. So maybe me watching Grey's Anatomy to take my mind off because I literally may flip from CNN to Grey's Anatomy because it's just too much in the visual, too much in my ears, too much distraction and just interruption off my focus of my day to day or even my focus of my job or focus on things in my business that I need to focus on. And it's so much in the world. And you said to kind of stay in that sadness. Can you describe a little bit more? And I know you said to write, but kind of go a little bit deeper of what you mean by staying in that sadness and getting it all out.
Sure. So that I would call experiencing the emotion instead of trying to run from it or numb it, right? So with our normal reaction, it could be, hey, I'm feeling something, which we often don't know how to label it. So we'll get there. But if I'm feeling something, I don't like what I'm feeling because I don't understand it, I'm going to go immediately to something that makes me feel better or ignore the pain. So I go watch Grey's Anatomy or whatever the cause, right? So instead of that, because our emotions are our brain's way of trying to send us a message. If we go back to physical pain, if our ankle hurts, our brain's trying to tell us, hey, you probably shouldn't walk like that, or hey, you just ran into something, or wow, you just stepped wrong. Some sort of message that says, maybe you shouldn't do that, or now here's what you need to do. So pain is the brain's way of telling us a message. Same with emotional pain. Okay, so now I'm feeling this way based on what I saw in the news. First, we should try to name it. So we notice it and name it. We notice what we're feeling, that can we name it? Okay, what would it be? If our vocabulary isn't so big with emotions, that's okay. Not even mine is that big. I try to make it bigger every day. But if we say it's probably sadness, yeah? All right. So now, if I'm feeling sadness, what is my brain trying to tell me? A lot of times, sadness tells us that we need to slow down and there's something missing in our life, or we need to focus on something else in life. Sadness also shows us what's important and builds connection. So, hey, the things on the news are making me sad. What should I do about it? Maybe I can connect with my loved ones, my family, my friends, the people I do have. Wow, I'm so grateful that I have these friends. See how even as I was saying this, I felt different as I was saying it. When I talked about sadness, yeah, I was like, oh, I am sad. But then I said, oh, connecting with my family, I'm grateful for them. I got more positive, and I said, wow, that's how I get myself out of the rut, as it were. I don't feel those uncomfortable feelings anymore. Now I have room for joy. And then if I want to go watch Grey's Anatomy, I can.
So, what are some other ways other than writing it out that people can cope when they're coping with emotional pain or dealing with emotional pain?
Sure. So I like to say we can have power over our emotions, and I do that with an acronym PWR. So we'll start with P. P is for pray. You know, regardless of whether or not you are a religious person, you know, I believe in God. So if you want to pray to God, that is somebody who's the master healer with whom you can discuss how you're feeling. And he might even help you understand what you're feeling or why you're feeling that way. Kind of what you said, going back to something, right? So, talking to the master healer helps us get the pain out of our mind. A quick analogy is if we have a splinter, a little piece of wood in our hand, if we never take it out, that pain will always be there, won't it? Our body just doesn't zap it away if we think about it. Or even if we leave 3 weeks for it to happen, it usually doesn't disappear. So we literally have to remove it from our hand, and then our body, which is designed to heal, will do it. So praying is a way of talking about it and getting it out of your mind in a safe environment with somebody who can help you. If you're not to the point of praying, you can talk to somebody who you trust and in a safe environment, and that has the same effect. So that's P. The second is write, which we talked about. It's the same principle of getting it out of your mind, removing the splinter from your hand. As you do so, not only is that effect happening, but there's something about writing something down, seeing it come out of your mind, and then you start to feel better and things start to make a little bit more sense. You start to feel that you have more control over these emotions that you're experiencing. The third is R. I say it's reach out. Because with emotional pain of any type, we all experience it. If it's coming from the events of today, guess what? Everybody's involved in one way or the other.
Yeah,
If it's something personal, somebody is probably can probably relate with an emotion that you're feeling. So where the immediate temptation is to say, well, I'm alone in this, nobody would understand, and I shouldn't even feel sad or angry or feared or scared or whatever. When we want to isolate ourselves, the best is to really reach out. Reach out for help or to give help. And either way, it's a way of putting that energy into a positive thing.
absolutely. And even like that you said to reach out for help, but then also give help. Even when we are um, experience emotional pain or different seasons, for maybe Christmas or different holidays that come into our life. And sometimes for some particular reason, one year, you're really sad about it. And for me, I think this past Christmas, it just really bothered me. I don't know why. I think I was just, I wanted my kids to appreciate Christmas more as giving and not like have their hands out like what's for me, and just being able to see, I really want them to see other people that had way less than us, and let's go and help them. And so I was really frustrated with just the kids and then
Mm-hmm.
just people in general. And I'm buying this gift and I'm getting this for my fiance, or it was all about receiving and nobody was giving. And so I signed us up to volunteer at a local church where we packed food to pass out the day of Christmas. And it was really good. Like just even the response of my children, they were so excited. We made it a game. We were packing little souffle cups of corn, and we made it a game of how many souffle cups of corn we could pack. But just the feelings that we had afterwards and the conversations that we were able to have helped us, and even helped me just release some of that tension I was feeling and all that emotional, because I do believe it was some type of emotional pain that I was experiencing, but I was able to exert or divert that energy into helping out and giving back to someone else.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Can I give you an example too?
Sure.
So I call it a passion project because we need to put our emotions into something positive. So there are two sides, well, two principles with emotions where maybe we'll get to the point where we're so good that we can say, all right, what am I experiencing? I'll name it, and then I'll do something to release the emotion. Sometimes that isn't so easy, and life just doesn't allow us to sit there until we're able to figure it out. So, kind of like what you said, is it is very good to reach out and give of yourself, give of service, because that gives the energy a place to go. So, for example, my passion project, as I was going through, let's say, my recovery of how I thought I was broken and all of my emotional pain, which we may get into that story later, my passion project became, well, I have a house, my basement is unfinished, so guess what? I'm going to finish it. And that was so exciting to me. And it wasn't just for me because I was preparing it for to be able to rent it out to people so that they would have a safe and comfortable place to stay. So it was a way to keep me busy with something that was exciting to me, but also directed in a way of helping others. That's a great thing to do with our emotional energy.
Absolutely. I have a comment from one of the viewers. She says that crap, things from seventh grade still haunts her. So what could you say to her to kind of help her address that emotional pain from seventh grade? And now
Oh,
I know she's an adult.
perfect. Well, I guess it's time for my story then, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, I think this will help a lot. And it goes to what you were saying about, yes, sometimes we do need to go back and see what it was so that we can, what I call, rewrite our memories.
Rewrite our memories. That's good.
hmm So mine comes from when I was 8 or 9, well, sorry, 9 or 10 years old. I was in elementary school, all right, farther back. And I was leaving gym class. We had just played dodgeball, and I was getting good at sports, and my friends were noticing that I was good at sports. So this time in my life, I was starting to define myself based on some talents and based on how my friends saw me. As I was leaving gym, my friends were laughing hysterically about something. Of course, I wanted to join in the fun, so I asked them, hey guys, what's so funny? They turned to me and told me to raise my arms. So I did, and I found that I had extremely sweaty armpits. Now, being a 9 or 10-year old, you might think, yeah, just left a gym class. Of course, you're going to be sweaty. What's the big deal? But being so young, I didn't know how my body worked. I didn't know I sweat like that. And it must have been more than others because why else would my friends laugh about it?
Hmm.
So, here in this moment, I felt feelings of embarrassment, fear, ridicule. Like, why in the world are my friends laughing at me? Now I'm embarrassed, right? And it came to be that now I feel like I am an embarrassment, or I am gross, like they were saying, or I am disgusting. Now there's something wrong with me. And this carried through with my life. It scarred me. Different moments throughout life. I mean, it's called hyperhidrosis. It's sorry, hyperhidrosis. It's the excessive underarm sweat, and
Okay.
that's what I've had to deal with my entire life. So yeah, I have moments where it still comes up. Now, the physical part isn't such a big deal, but the emotional part, absolutely. Why? Because my memories were tied to that experience. My brain understood if somebody discovers my hyperhidrosis, then they will laugh at me, say I'm disgusting or gross. Therefore, I am disgusting and gross. I don't want anybody to figure that out. So, yeah, here I am, a 30-year-old. I've done some great things with my life. Traveled the world in choirs, singing, performing. I've been an executive in a company. I'm talented in a lot of things. So sure, looks like I've had a fantastic life. Underneath it all, though, I still had that self-doubt. And what I did to cope with it is I would keep people at arm's length. Even a friend of mine told me that. Some people think, Ben, you have a picture perfect life, but you don't let anybody get closer than arm's length. And I thought, you know what? That is so true. Because I have developed this shield, as it were, to say, hey, everybody thinks Ben's cool. Oh yeah. I'm gonna have them think that because if they get any closer, they might discover something about me that I don't control and that I'm not proud of. They will think I'm gross, disgusting, and there's something wrong with me. So yeah, these feelings of shame persisted with me for many, many, many years. Now, what did I do? After I went through my attempts of coping, well, I want to fix this. I don't want to feel this way, so here's what I'm going to do. I shielded myself with that. I even entered the world of addiction to try to solve it. course, those things didn't work because they didn't address the actual emotion. So as I was working with a therapist, actually about 2 years ago, I said, you know what? Maybe this experience from 9 or 10 years old still affects me today. So I'm going to ask him about it. Now I went in very defensive because what did my brain say? If anybody finds out, they will laugh, you'll be embarrassed, life will suck, and you don't want that to happen.
Right.
So I went to my therapist very defensive, but I told him my story, and like any good therapist would say, is thank you for telling me. And my body was like, oh, wait, you're not going to laugh? You're not going to say I'm crazy or weird or gross? But he didn't. And because of that reaction, my brain thought, oh my goodness, maybe it's possible that I don't have to feel this way. This was mind blowing to me. I was able to rewrite or begin to rewrite my memories. One more part of this story for this listener. My therapist helped me rewrite my story or rewrite my memories by doing the following. He said, I want you to go back or imagine going back to your 9 or 10-year-old self as
Mm-hmm.
your current self today, right after this experience happened. I want you to take him to a safe place. I want you to tell him, you just experienced something very hard, and you have every right to feel the way that you do. But I want you to know that you're loved and that you're going to do some amazing things in life. Now, when I told myself this as my current self, I said, baloney. Why would anybody love me? I've lived for 18 years or whatever the math is, and I don't feel this way. My feelings don't tell me that. But my therapist helped me realize, okay, it doesn't have to be that way. I can close the door on that experience and realize that even though I still have the hyperhidrosis, it doesn't have to affect me that way. I hope that helps that listener.
I hope so too. I hope so too. Thank you so much for sharing that story, and even like you going back and being able to find that root of why you had all this pain for so many years. And even as you guys heard, he said just even 2 years ago, being able to truly identify that that was, a big cause and a big problem, or the reason that his friend was able to make that assessment of you only keep people at arm's length. And that was a boundary that you set early on in life to protect yourself, to protect your secret. And a lot of times, many of us have secrets that we want to protect, and we set boundaries and we do different things in our life to protect us and to protect our feelings. Because honestly, when we're dealing with emotional pain, it hurts. And for me, I don't like to cry. I feel like I'm a baby if I cry, or I'm not strong enough if I'm crying. And um, even in society, listening to what society says and how strong we are supposed to be, and even me comparing myself to a lioness. I don't want to cry. I'm a lioness. I can't cry. I have to fight for the pride. But being able to address that pain and identify that pain so that you can begin to cope is so important in your everyday life, in um, even in this week and in the past week of all the events that have taken place, being able to identify, why am I so affected by what I'm seeing on TV, by the videos that are being played before me? Why am I so affected by even the statements that the president says? What is it that makes me feel this way? And how can I then get that energy into another place, into another, writing it down or praying about it. I don't remember the other things you said. Oh, and speaking to a therapist or some, but how can I do that? And it's important because it's for your well-being. It's for your own sanity. It's for your peace. Because the longer you keep it bottled in, the less and less peace you have. And just like he was saying in that movie, you're going to be angered. You're going to always live in fear. You're never going to step out on faith because you are afraid to even identify the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of want to switch gears here because we did meet this year in March at the Leaders Conference, and we wrote a book together, right? It's kind of cool.
Right?
So tell me about that experience. What is it like writing? What is it like writing? What does the writing experience look like for you?
So it's been very therapeutic. Let's use that word, right? It helps me understand myself and clarifies what I've been through, but also in such a way that builds confidence and says, you know what? Even though I had this hard experience, for me it was very hard, had those valid emotions, I think it can help somebody. And sorry, a quick tangent, but here I was where people said, Ben, you have a picture perfect life. And I thought, well, if people think that of me and I went through such a hard experience, I wonder if anybody else has as well. Come to find out, yes.
Mhm.
Lots of people can benefit from it. So I left my executive HR position to do this full time. And now I get to put it in a book so that people can have it in their hands and read that story and relate. You know, every single time I've given this message, somebody has come up to me and said, I I know that you know how I feel, and I thought there was nobody else that could understand me. I don't even know their story. But because we could relate on those emotions, then the person finally felt this light of hope. I don't have to do this alone. I don't have to suffer. I'm not broken. Maybe there is a way out of what I'm feeling. Then I don't have to turn to my addictions. Then I don't have to turn to my coping mechanisms. So writing this book has been awesome, and teaming up with all of you awesome speakers and everybody else that I met, so cool to work together. People who know me have said, "You're so much different than you were 2 years ago,"
Wow.
because I took the time to recover
Yeah.
and to discover what the source of my pain was. And because I've come through it, I don't have to walk around looking wounded or
Yeah.
things like that. I can look people in the eye and be happy and be full. It's awesome.
And that is so important, especially in the video age, the selfie life. Like you said, discover and recover. Discover the pain points, the pain that you have, the emotional pain that you have in your life this week. Discover the emotional pain that you've had in your past relationship, so that when you get ready to go into your new relationship, that you've recovered from that relationship and from that emotional pain, and that you're full, and that that new person is able to receive you in such a way, and you're 100%. You're able to give them all of you without fear of of experiencing that same emotional pain, because you're smarter now. You understand how you got there and why that situation or that crisis caused you that type of emotional pain and trauma. And now you're able to identify those red flags even before you can get into that relationship with someone.
Mm-hmm.
And when we get in new relationships, especially when you find the one, you want to operate at your fullest potential and you want to be your best self, because we all expect our new mate to be their best self. We expect them to be 100% better than the last person that we were in a relationship with. So
Right.
I like that you said to discover and then recover, and rewriting those memories. Rewrite the memories so that when you think about it, you can remember, you know what, that used to bother me. And you can share that story without crying. You can share that story without experiencing that pain anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so important, because when people look at you, they also see that you are now healed from that type of emotional pain.
Exactly. Yeah, I like to phrase it as turning ghosts into ancestors.
Oh, okay.
What used to haunt us, we can now look back and say, you know what, that was part of me, but it doesn't define me.
It doesn't define me. It's
Mm-hmm.
not me anymore.
Right.
It was me, but it's no longer me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so important to have that mindset and have that in your mind, because even when you go to sleep and you wake back up, you remember that that used to be me, but it's not me. Instead of waking back up and it's still on your subconscious of I'm not worthy, or I'm not good enough, or I'm ashamed, or I'm guilty, or all of the negative thoughts that would continue to flood your mind until you begin to identify that problem, and then being able to pivot from that dilemma to now having a solution. And that takes you to your deliverance. That takes you to the ultimate new you and that new mindset.
Hmm. Uh, I'll give one more. Can I give one more? Well, sorry, one more example. So I find it helpful to relate emotional pain with physical pain because everybody. I mean, it seems like the world experiences or sorry, relates better with physical pain because
They
it's easier
do.
easier to see, right?
But I think it hurts more if it's emotional. I
Oh
don't
yeah.
know. Okay.
Oh, you are 100% right. And there's an article that's so awesome that talks about 5 reasons why emotional pain is worse than physical pain. One is physical pain doesn't affect your self-esteem or your mental health, does it?
No
And
more
we don't.
get your legs cut off could affect your
Uh,
self-esteem.
well, true. Yeah. And we won't get into that.
Great
But
analogy.
for example, last year, so I love soccer, right? And I
Okay.
played in my first and only game I played last year. I got pushed and I fell and I flipped my hand back like this and it hurt so bad. I've never broken a bone in my body, but I actually went to the doctor because it hurt so bad. Got the x-ray. Luckily, still haven't broken any bone, but it became what they called tendonitis.
Okay.
I was going to the gym at the time doing CrossFit, but now because of the hand, I couldn't do most of the workouts. So I ended up having to quit CrossFit. And for months, I couldn't bend my hand. If you can see, I couldn't bend my hand all the way back. You can see that I can do it now, right? But for months, I couldn't. So I loved what you were saying about relationships and coming in full. So, two thoughts I wanted to make clear real quick. As you were talking about that and saying you can go into a relationship with your whole self, I felt, yes, I can. I no longer had to feel a little embarrassed inside and saying, well, no, because of this. I have done emotionally what I've also done with my hand. I did what was necessary to heal it. I took it to the doctor if necessary, or the therapist in the emotional case. I did the exercises. I did the stretches, everything necessary to take care of the hand, which is exactly what we need to do with our emotions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I like that you said that. And if you guys don't know, we've mentioned it before. We've written a book together, and we're a part of a larger group that we have all written a book together, the anthology, and it is on pre-order at Amazon.com. So head on over to Amazon and get your pre-order. And it's about leadership, and it's about leaders from different walks of life coming together and being able to share their experience. And we literally did this the week when COVID-19 like exploded across America. And we were at a conference like, oh my God, how am I going to get home? So, Ben, what was that emotional experience like of the world kind of imploding with this virus and us still having to make the trek home?
Sure. So, this is a good example of how we can control our emotions based on our thoughts. Okay. So, and I think we felt this way, all of us. We were at the conference, and the world was kind of deciding how much we should shut down. And yeah, we were worried if the airports would be closed down. We were like, now what?
Right.
But at the same time, because we all felt strongly about our message, we wanted to continue, we felt okay continuing. I felt a source of hope and saying, you know what? There's a lot going on in the world, but I have control over what I can control. And today, I'm going to be great. I'm going to give a good presentation. I'm going to connect with people. Fantastic. And with the airport coming in 2 days, well, I'll worry about it when it comes. So, yes, there were emotions of maybe a little bit of anxiety or some fear, uncertainty, saying, well, I don't know exactly what it's going to be. But I'm just not going to focus on what I don't know or what I don't control. I will focus on what I do know.
And that's a good message to the panic attackers, to the people who just like have panic attacks or see something and totally react in a way of just overthinking and and their brain is just flooded with so many questions of what ifs.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to deal with it as it comes up. And I'm not going to spend the next 48 hours when my flight is trying to figure it out or because I have no clue anyway. once, even when the day comes, I still don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But what we do know is that we can control our reaction to crisis, and that
Exactly.
helps control us from experiencing that type of pain. I believe that we can control ourselves experiencing certain type of pain, especially if you have boundaries and you're not putting yourself in certain situations, but then also being able to see that situation, assess that situation. Okay, this is the reality of it. It's the virus, it's COVID-19. But this is what I can do. I can stay home and get my hand sanitizer and keep Clorox wipes in my purse.
There you go.
And being able to have, some type of plan, or being able to figure out that plan as you go, and be okay with knowing that I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out. I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to get through it. I can cope with this. This is not going to be the end of me or the end all of America.
Right. Yeah, two thoughts with that. I mentioned before that God is a big part of my life. So I believe that God asked me to share this message. He helped me decide when it was time to leave my job. So that has helped me a ton during this crisis because I could easily think, oh shoot, I gave up my normal corporate job to do speaking and now the world just closed down. So
Right.
what have I done? But I can trust in that higher power that said, well, he was my teammate then, he's my teammate now, and he knows what's going on. The other, real quick, that might help some of your listeners is we literally can control our emotions and how we feel based on our thoughts. So, real quick, a quick exercise. If people want to close their eyes or whatever, they can think of their happiest memory, sometime, someplace, something they were doing when they were extremely happy. If they think of that, who they were with, what they were doing, maybe what they heard, what they smelled, whatever, they can concentrate and feel, oh my goodness, I feel happy. I love that memory and it's really affecting me today. Okay, then we pause and we go on to the second thing and we think, all right, now think of war, think of disease, think of terror and fear. Even me, as I'm saying this, I feel anxious inside. I feel a little nervous. So now open your eyes. That was an experience to say, oh my goodness, just based on the fact of what this guy was saying and what he told me to think about, literally changed how I felt inside. I went from happy and excited to a little pit in my stomach,
Yeah.
all in 1 minute, right?
In 1 minute.
So
Yeah.
that's a literal exercise that we can always do because we always have power over our thoughts that can control our emotions. So in this experience of, or this example of, hey, we were speaking and then all of a sudden things might shut down, or today where things are still shut down, we can say, well, am I going to focus on the scary stuff that I don't understand? Or will I choose to focus on what I'm excited about and what I can do? And you can control those emotions because we just experienced it.
Yeah, so I thought about, and it was a quick thing that comes to my mind. I thought about when I was a lifeguard and I worked at Disney World. And that was one of the happiest times. And um, I was so excited. I even saw myself in my outfit and I was like, I was so cute. And then you switched and then you made me think of a war. And I thought of, just of where the America is now, and even the world is now, with the riots and the looting and the protesting. And I immediately changed. I went from being so happy and free and I'm living my best life working at Disney World to anxious or worried and sad and fear. And it was an instant change. And it's true. If you actually go back and listen to the recording and go back to that part where he, talked us through the happy emotion and then the sad emotion, you do experience it. And it was in my own mind that changed it. It was his words, but it was my memories and the images that came to my head that changed that feeling, that emotion. And
Mm-hmm.
so one thing that one of the comments was, someone says, I also like the concept of reminding yourself of your superpowers and not focusing on your fears. Sometimes it helps to say, I'm not helpless. Tell yourself that you will be worried, but you will work on everything as you go and get better and get to the other side whole and even better.
Hmm. I like that.
So thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. And another one says embracing your emotions is healthy.
Absolutely.
Is healthy. So could you just tell us a little bit why it's healthy? Why you think, you agree with that statement?
Yeah, why to embrace the emotions is important?
Yeah.
Sure. So it's a principle, first of all, of what we focus on, we get more of. So if we focus on what we don't want, we're going to get nervous. Oh my goodness, I don't want it, but it's there, it's there, it's there. If we focus on what we do of happiness, we're going to find it. So to acknowledge, I always say you got to understand and acknowledge your emotions so that you can have power over them.
Absolutely.
When we're feeling something, if we can think about it and put a name to it and remember our experience of being happy, I mean, I love doing that. It's so healthy. It feels
I
great.
know. I want to stay there.
We can go there and we can say, this is what I'm feeling. And all of a sudden, what used to be scary and dark, we have put boundaries on. We said,
Mhm.
I'm happy, I'm scared, I'm nervous, I'm worried, but I put a boundary on it. So now I'm worried about this. I'm not worried about everything. I'm worried about this. Now that I can see it and control it, what else can I do about it? If I can't do anything about it today, then I acknowledge that it's there, but I'm not going to let it affect me. Why? Because I know what else I can do. If we never acknowledge those emotions, then we're back to the beginning of going to go watch Grey's Anatomy to just forget about the world, right? Yes. And then the emotions are still there and they're going to bother us and they're going to come out at a point where we're not ready for them.
Right. That's very good. That's good. Being able to address our emotional pain, discover and recover. And I want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. Thank you, Ben, for being an awesome guest. And this is Smashing Thursdays with Chantelle Branch, founder of MFF Project. And if you could tell us one thing that will help us the rest of 2020, what would it be?
It would be that know that your emotions are valid. Don't try to judge your emotions based on how you think you should feel.
Mm,
Give yourself permission to feel your feelings.
that's good. Give yourself permission to feel your feelings. And do you think it's a time limit that people should stay feeling or staying in that space?
That's a great question because yeah, we shouldn't dwell on it forever and ever and ever. But we shouldn't say, well, if it's not gone in 20 minutes, then there's something wrong with me. I think it's good to say, you know what, I'm going to be sad today, and then tomorrow I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to start a passion project or I'm going to help somebody. I do think it's important and helpful to say, I'm going to deal with it now, but at this time, I'm going to do something different.
All right, guys. When you heard it, don't forget to set your boundaries because boundaries, I am a firm believer that it keeps your peace and it protects your peace. And don't forget to identify your pain points. And it's okay to say I'm in pain. And this situation or this crisis or that particular trauma has hurt me or that relationship hurt me or that person said some deep words that hurt me and stuck with me. But not only can you identify them, but then recover from it. Don't stay in that space so long. And if you find yourself staying in that space too long, longer than you think you should be, reach out for help
Exactly.
so that you can rewrite your memories. All right. So thank you so much, Ben, for joining in. This is the MFF Smashing Thursdays, and I am Chantelle Branch, your domestic violence specialist, educating individuals on why their decision to remain silent keeps them locked in abuse. So I hope that this segment of emotional pain helps you identify some things that you have going on in your life, and I hope that you can take the necessary steps to recover and rewrite your memories. So, see you guys next week, 7 o'clock, right here. Have a good night.